Wants to talk to you.
Yeah, grab him.
Grab him. Say that. Hey, Luds is right here. He wants to talk to you.
He's not over here. He went over the other way.
Sam's name dropping here because we're about to start our DLS Dallas Stars pregame show. The Flames are in town, and guess what? They're not as bad as everybody predicted. Let's talk about it right now. This is the DLLS Dallas Stars pregame show as they welcome for the first time in more than 12 months the Calgary Flames. Alongside Craig Ludwig, Sam Nessler is at the AAC, John Anderson is behind the controls, and briefly on the screen, I'm Owen Newkirk. Thanks for joining us. Little Christmas decor here in the studio. We got the tree, which is way taller than the cameras can shoot it, so we'd have to do a special shot. But nonetheless, you heard a little groan from Sam right after John let us know that we went live. Well, the Stars are back home. 6-game homestand and 10 of the next 12 at American Airlines Center after 10 of their last 15 on the road, going back to the Finland trip, which was in itself its own distractions. Sam, I have a bunch of clips, and some of that was the conversation today about trying to avoid a trap game. And typically, when I think of the words trap game, it's because you've been winning on the road and you come home. But that was still being brought up even though the Stars have lost their last 2 games coming home.
Yeah, it's just like a natural question because it does happen. You see teams, especially when you go on a long trip. This wasn't as long of a trip, but you get out there on 5 or you extend it even further than that to 6 games or something like that. You can really be hard to muster up that intensity when you get back home because it feels like we don't have to do as much. We're back home. We're comfortable, and the intensity might be lower. But for here, you're exactly right. They don't feel they played bad in those last 2 games, those 2 losses in LA and Vegas, but they definitely don't feel that they deserve to come out of there with 0 points either. So I don't expect this to be any sort of trap game. I think that they'll be ready to go here, and they still have a lot to prove. This is their home rink has been their safe space. So it doesn't really matter what kind of trap game it is. They need to pick up points right now until they figure it out on the road.
Yeah, it's not like they're lighting up their play on the road. So there's no reason to come back here and think it's just going to fall into place, even though they've been good at home. But, you know, if I'm Pete DeBoer, I'm probably walking into the meeting this morning and saying, guys, please, let's go tonight. I don't want to answer this trap game question one more time. I'm sure Heike and everybody, Sam probably. Sam, did you bring it up this morning? You didn't say it. Good for you.
Nope. Heike and others were asking everybody that was interviewed today.
It's just the most awkward question to ask a head coach or player or whatever. It's not like they're coming back and not trying to win a hockey game, you know? So, and that's why I say one of the definitions of trap is something that you're unaware of. And so they're aware of the trap game. So it's not a lack of effort, even though sometimes we look at it and think it is.
Sam, you had something you said to me this morning, and so I had to go back and watch Pete DeBoer's post-game comments after the Vegas loss the other night, which was Friday night. And I clipped it for you because I think your take is interesting, and I'm curious if Luddy feels the same. Here's what Pete had to say about the disallowed goal early in the game against the Golden Knights and Jason Robertson's reaction to that.
I mean, it looked like a bang play. I thought, you know, I didn't think his stick hit the glove. I thought he got to the puck as the glove was coming down. That's why his stick was under the glove. But you know, they saw it differently. So
is that frustrating for a guy like Robertson who is trying to get another goal? I mean,
it might be frustrating, but you know what? You get out there and find another way to score. That's what you're supposed to do.
How about that, Sam?
I love it because the first off, we talked a bunch on the post game at 5 o'clock in the morning or whenever it was after that game, but that goal would have been so big for Jason in so many ways, not just to get one, but to get one the way that goal went, right? To drive the net, to get a rebound, to really be aggressive. It just felt like it could have been a big lift off his shoulders. But I love that Pete just said, Mike Heiko was asking a good question. He was saying, is it frustrating for a guy that's one, trying to get his scoring going, and two, that would have been a big goal to start that game off. And he didn't even let him finish the question. He just interrupted and said, look, it's frustrating, but you need to go out and find another way to score a goal. And I think the important thing though about that, and what stands out to me about that, is that we've seen the transition from Pete DeBoer himself through 20 games of going from these new players are adjusting to then all of a sudden about 5, 6, 7 games ago, he said, all right, it's time for these new guys, the new faces, to really stop adjusting and start making an impact on the ice. He feels the same way about Jason Robertson, because we had similar answers from Jason. Look, he's getting going. The surgery, the no preseason, he's starting to look better in some games. Now it's just like, hey, look, it's frustrating. He didn't get the goal, but he needs to score. And I think that's the way that this should be approached. Like, we know what to expect from Jason Robertson. Yes, he had the surgery. Yes, he has plenty of excuses and good ones, right? The surgery took him off training camp. The surgery took him out of any preseason games. He's trying to play catch up while other guys are getting going. And he's playing without that guy on the right wing that was a huge part of their line. So it's understandable, but now we're to the point where 26 games in, he's got to start making an impact. He's got to start scoring goals. And I just think that was a great way for Pete to kind of put that there. And if there's going to be a game for him to do it, currently he is on a 8-game point streak against Calgary with 12 points in the last 8 games. He's the only guy on any sort of point streak against this team. So maybe tonight's the night.
Did you interpret that the same way Sam did, what Pete was saying?
Yeah, well, I'd have been real disappointed if Robertson isn't frustrated. If he said, no, he's not frustrated. I mean, he better be frustrated. So, I mean, I saw, I think it must have been that game, the post-game thing. I think Heike did something with him. I mean, it looks like somebody ran his dog over when he did. Am I right? Did you watch that? I'm sure you watched it.
Yeah, because I was looking to see if there's anything to clip. And he, like many of the stars, gave a very good answer, non-answer interview there. And I understand why.
Don't put Jamie in that category, because Jamie's interviews are like that on every one of his interviews.
He's a master at trying to say as little as possible.
Yeah, right? but I mean, you could see his disappointment in Robertson, and so, I mean, Sam's right on everything. I mean, it's time. It's time to look in the mirror for him. I mean, 10 games ago it was time to look in the mirror. I mean, he skates around and he can't get pushed out of certain areas of the ice. And Sam talked about his, what's happening in the past against Calgary. And personally, I think that they're going to have a good power play tonight. I just look at some of the things that Calgary hasn't done on their power play. They don't win face-offs when they're shorthanded. They've got the worst goals against save percentage when they're shorthanded. So this might be a good opportunity for the power play in general to make an impact tonight.
A little bit later, we're going to hear from Plano's own Blake Coleman about the inconsistency of their special teams. And I will want to throw some things at you. It sounds like you already prepared for it, Leds. Sam, no lineup changes for the 4th straight game. Now, obviously, Tyler Seguin is going to be out long term. But they didn't call anybody else up. Ritzgovian got called up as a backup on the road, but they've got their guys. Are you surprised that they haven't tinkered with it, or are you kind of glad to see that they've had some consistency of lineup?
I'm going to say both. I think that I kind of expected and a little bit hoped to see Brendan Smith get back in the lineup. I don't think that the defense has been particularly excellent over this last 3-4 games. But I do like, on the other, like you said, I like to see some consistency. You got to draw the line. And that's one of the hardest jobs for coaches is drawing the line of changing things too much versus keeping consistency. Because if you keep it consistent, but you're not getting results, you're going to have to change it. But if you're changing it too much and you're not getting results, it can kind of become its own little rotation problem. And we've seen that before in the past. So I expect to see this lineup tonight looking like a lineup that is expecting to have to play for their spots, right? There's a couple guys I think on defense that really need to stand out. We know number 3 is still looking to find his game, and I think that's going to be huge for him tonight, especially obviously they're not thinking this, but it's an interesting matchup because the Flames actually have 2 right-handed defensemen who are in 3rd and 4th on their team in scoring in Rasmus Andersson and Mackenzie Weegar. So it's kind of like, hey, Matt Dumba, maybe watch those guys for a second, play that style, get a point, get an assist, be a little more consistent, and same goes for the rest of the defense. But the only thing that surprised me a little bit was that Casey DeSmith wasn't in net tonight. I know they got a 3-day break and they're not playing a ton of games this week, but I know that Pete and his staff are really looking to keep Jake around that 55 start range, and right now he's on pace to get above that and get towards 60. So whether they have a plan in place later on that's going to be more Casey to Smith. This one just kind of felt like an easy one to throw him in there. Jake's lost 2 in a row. They're coming off the road. But either way, good one for Jake tonight.
Planned, or do you think this is a reaction to having lost the last 2?
You got to win the game. I mean, this is an important game. I don't know what their plan is with them. In my opinion, Jake can play more than them 50-55, but I understand why, they're all thinking that way. And as far as calling guys up and all this other kind of stuff, you're starting to approach the 30-game mark played. I think now when everybody's healthy and you call somebody up, it ends up being a threat. Like we're kind of threatening you to play well. And if you don't, and you know who it is. I mean, we're not talking about guys in the top 8, 9 players. We're not talking about the 4D. So I think it's time that guys start getting some confidence back, that they're going to be in the lineup and start playing with confidence. And if you make a mistake, you made a mistake, because it's a game full of mistakes. And so I don't care if you're talking about Dumba or Lundqvist or whoever it may be, let them start playing with some confidence. But when there's somebody else just kind of hovering over the top, you're the guys that have been coming in and out of the lineup, you're like, man, I better play good tonight or I'm going to be out, because that's the way it happened in the first 20-some games.
Sam, Calgary is better than they were expected to be this year. In fact, my friend Derek Wills, who's their radio broadcaster, we've known each other for years and years through the AHL, said that Sportsnet in Canada preseason pick 31st out of 32 teams, and they are not way up in the standings. They're in the second wild card, but punching well above all the pundits' expectations.
Absolutely. And I think I don't know if they're 1 or 2 points behind what Dallas is right now. So they're doing a lot better than expected. And I think a lot of that has to do with those 2 guys in the net. Vladar and Wolf have been really good. Wolf had a couple of tough starts the last 2, but Vladar was excellent against St. Louis in that overtime loss on a few days ago. So I think that's been huge for them. The goaltending's been a huge issue for Calgary dating back. Markstrom was good, but he was injured a little bit. Then Markstrom leaves, and now is a big question mark. And these guys have been really, really good, both of them. And I think we're going to see Wolf tonight. Expect him to be good and expect him to be a big part of this game if Calgary's to have a lot of success.
Yeah, I think sometimes, depending on the makeup of your team, when you see those initial ranking things, it kind of pisses you off a little bit, because there is some character in that room. There's guys that are holdovers. There's a couple of guys that are there that came in on big contracts and didn't play well the first year there. So they have some things to prove. And, and again, you're in Canada. I don't care if it's in Alberta, Edmonton, wherever it is. I mean, you're in Canada, and they're the biggest show in town. And so they'd like to go out at night and not get asked and bugged about, hey, what's going on with you guys? Calgary's a good little town, and there's a few good spots that guys would like to go out and enjoy, and it's nice going out and enjoying it, knowing you're not going to get bombarded by these kind of questions.
And Sam, the roster is, as you mentioned, Markstrom is one of several big changes, because the last time these two teams played was in November. It was November 30th of last year, 2023. Amazingly, they had a weird schedule where they played the 1st of November, the 24th, and the 30th. And that was it. Their entire season series was encapsulated in 1 month. So they haven't played in over 12 months. And since then, the last time they played, the Flames won in overtime up in Calgary. Noah Hannafin and Chris Tanev were on the blue line. And, of course, Markstrom is in goal. They're a very different-looking team now, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They have to play this in different styles, right? I just mentioned they have Anderson and Mackenzie Weegar that have a huge part in their offense. They're third and fourth in scoring. They got some guys that can put the puck in the net and some skill, but it's more of a. I rewatched their game against St. Louis, and they ended up putting up 40 shots on net. They play a style that is familiar with a team that maybe doesn't have the most skill, right? They play to the style they can play, and I think that's why they're having success. They're not trying to go out and run and gun and try to do with what other teams are doing, because if they came out here and they tried to match skill on skill with Dallas, they're not going to win the game. They're not going to have that success, and that's the same against a lot of teams they're going to play. So they're kind of playing really well. They're playing structured defensively. They're getting good goaltending, and they're just winning some games they maybe weren't expected to win. So Dallas better be ready tonight. It's going to be a good matchup for all the things we talked about coming off the road. The Stars need to win tonight. They don't like to lose 3 in a row, and they've lost 2 in a row. So this is a really big one tonight.
Well, Sam, warm-up sounds like they're underway. The music is bumping. Enjoy the game, and we will get to you in our post-game show. Thanks for being on, bud.
All right, boys.
I don't know why I said thank you as if he had a choice.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
like it was a privilege for him.
Yeah, like, hey, it was really nice that you graced us with your
Yeah.
presence. All right, Luds, I want to get to you some of these thoughts. So Pete DeBoer this morning on the trap game threat. I know you said that's you hate that question, but it got brought up today, and here's what Pete had to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, always, not just being first game back from a trip, but I think when you look at our schedule in general, we've had a pretty tough 3 or 4 weeks here. So you got to grind through, though. That's mental toughness. That's what good teams find a way to dig deep here and find a way to win.
Folks at home in the chat, are you hearing it? Because we're not.
I'm guessing they're not. Because we just heard Sam, so it's not like our speakers weren't on. You want to try it again, or should we just keep on going? He's going to play around with something for a second. So let's get back to that, because one of the things we saw with the Stars is they are a really good response team. You mentioned that they don't want to lose this one. They have a 3-day break. They haven't had a lot of days off. Now, when I say break, I mean 3 days without a game. The motivation as a professional is to win every game, right? That's usually the case. Sometimes there's a little added motivation and incentive because of who you're playing, maybe past history. There's also this thing of we don't want to spend 3 days, day off, couple practice days, thinking about the loss and 3-game losing streak.
Well, you know that you lost a couple games on the road. You come home and you don't win a game, and you've got those 3 days off, and coaches can make it uncomfortable. And in this day and age, they really don't make it that uncomfortable. There may be 1 or 2 bag drills at most in 3 days, because it's more about teaching, because you don't have a lot of time to go over your power play, your penalty kill, your 5-on-5, little adjustments that you wanted to make, things that aren't in the game that you like to keep working on getting the game. So,
and you can't wear them out because you don't have enough recovery time either.
I mean, you're not gonna jump on them, because I mean you need these guys, and they know that. And so again, if this was a younger team, you know what I mean, and an inexperienced team that needed to learn that lesson, I think that could be something. They may take 1 day, and next thing you know, they got to cancel everything the day after because the ice is junk and they can't skate on it. But I think when you've got these kind of guys that know that these are precious days off, and I'm talking about the leadership guys that have been around, they kind of pull everybody and drag everybody to making sure you're doing these things right, and let's put our work in for a couple hours while we're here, and then we can go home.
All right, let's try it again, John, to see if it works or if we got silent Pete.
I mean, it looked like a bang play. I thought I didn't. Yeah, I mean, always, not just being first game back from a trip, but I think when you look at our schedule in general, we've had a pretty tough 3 or 4 weeks here. So you got to grind through, though. That's mental toughness. That's what good teams find a way to dig deep here and find a way to win a game.
Well, that was a little bit disjointed for you, so I actually want to give you another one. Here's Jakeoettinger on the trap threat.
Yeah, I think just like, you get back yesterday at like 4 o'clock, and then you wake up and you're like, holy crap, we have to ramp it up and do it again today. So that's kind of the especially with the time change and stuff, like that's the challenge. But, no one feels sorry for us. Every team has to deal with stuff like that. So like I said, I mean, we know we have a nice break coming up and a couple of days to rest and relax. So we're just going to try to leave it all on the ice tonight and feel, proud of the effort that we gave.
2 good points there from Jake. One is, why not lay it all out there? Because if you do empty the tank tonight, you're not trying to save anything for the game tomorrow night or the night after. But more importantly, because I don't know how many times guys are trying to conserve energy through a hockey game. I feel like they play the game to win the game and conserve it for that game, not thinking, well, I got 3 more games this week.
That was the only thing I was going to say. Is I've never been around a team that says, hey, let's just go 80% tonight, because we got this.
We're playing tomorrow, so let's take it easy.
I've never heard that before. Yeah. So I don't, again, not going to speak for any other sport, but as far as I know, hockey players don't think that way. They kind of empty the tank the way that sometimes you come into games with not a full tank because of what you may have done the night before.
How about what Jake said, which is we got back at 4 a.m. There's a time change from Pacific in Vegas to Central. And then you go, hey, tomorrow when you don't have enough time to get your body clock right, you got to gear up and play a hockey game.
Yeah, I think it just insinuates sometimes when you say you didn't put it all in there. And really there are, like, for travel reasons. And again, they're back in Dallas. And so they've been gone for a while. They've been how many days on the road, right, in general? Yeah.
So they're 10 games of the last 15 have been on the road.
A lot of these guys,
basically over a month.
Yeah, and they're getting back to their wives and kids, and there's chores and things. Hey, you guys were gone playing while you were gone, which they weren't, but they think they were out having a good time all the time. And so there's little daddy duties that you got to take care of. So Yeah, some of that stuff isn't really the way it's meant or said, and it's not meant the way it's said.
Well, Luds, the Flames and Stars are very similar this year. Both teams dominant at home and to varying degrees less successful on the road. The Stars did dip back under 500. They're 6-8 through their first 14 road games, which is a far cry from the league-leading road record they had last year. But Calgary is really bad. There's 3, 6, and 4 in 13 road games. They have a .385 point percentage, tied for 25th in the league, and they're minus 18 in goal differential. Here's Ryan Huska on their road play.
You try to reinforce as much as you can that the game doesn't change no matter where you are, and the big thing for us is our mindset and what we ask our players to do when we have the puck and when we don't have the puck. Because if you play a smart road game, you give yourself a chance to win, and a lot of a smart road game revolves around what are we doing when we have the puck and what are we doing when they have the puck.
And how much does, just going back on the last 4-game road trip, just how much does discipline play into that too, and setting yourself up?
Hey, so much. I mean, discipline in a lot of different ways. One, staying out of the box. We've talked about that a lot over the last little while. Discipline in the way we play the game, and it's discipline that it's an every shift mentality. So you want to be a good team, whether at home or the road. Discipline is a real big part of your game.
I don't think casual hockey fans think about what you guys think about constantly, which is the play without the puck. Because I think everybody thinks, okay, what do you do when you have it? Your breakouts, your neutral zone game, and offense. In the offensive zone, what do you do with it? But a massive chunk of the game is without the puck.
Yeah, and you're trying to play to get it back, but you're trying to do it with the right kind of structure. It's not like with our younger players, I always use an analogy of, you see these videos of these little cats that are chasing a pen light, one of them little red lights all over. And I use that analogy, like that's how you guys are playing the game. You're all just chasing that puck. And so you have to learn how to play away from the puck and with structure and where you're supposed to be. And everybody's got to be on the same page. And the other one we use is like, we're all tied together with a rope. And when one guy goes, the next guy pulls in over. Next guy goes, next guy goes. So you're all kind of on the same wavelength. I think a long time ago when we were playing for Kitch, we did the neutral zone and defensive stuff every single day. Every day, and we did 2 or 3 drills that were the same every single day, and it got hard to do them. But what happened is you get to
why? Because you get bored with it.
Well, you're like, oh, here we're doing this again,
right?
Again, and it would, and you know what, like he would know when to lose it on us, and you know, Bob Gainey was the same way, but there was a reason that you did it. It's so that you don't have to think, and you know, again, we always say that 80% of the game is played from the shoulders up. But when you're able to react to things naturally, and you don't have, because when you do think like this, okay, where am I supposed to go? Remember when Pete made a couple comments this year about a couple players, like they're still taking time to get used to the system. That's because they're trying to reprogram a different way that they've been playing, and it's a little different here. And so you kind of, that split second that you have to go, where was I supposed to go? Oh yeah, and by then your guy's there, and there's a goal in the goal, or there's a good scoring chance. So, you know, that's why you want to be able to know where you're supposed to go, and once you're all on the same page, that's why these practices become so important in these days off that we just got done talking about. It's hard to bag guys in that because there's things that we need to go over to make ourselves better.
It's funny you bring up the thinking part, because I got a chance to chat one-on-one with Mason Marshmitt this morning for a few minutes, and I asked him about, I said, look, when I watch you right now, I had this thought the other day of how much confidence you're playing with. You look great. And I said, the game looks like it's slowed down for you. I said, you don't look like you're slow. It looks like you're playing faster because you're comfortable, confident, whatever. He goes, you know what? I'm not thinking right now. I'm just playing. He goes, I think when you think, that's when you start looking slow.
Well, and he's starting to feel comfortable now being here for a while too, you know, and he's comfortable with who he's
playing with. And being an impact player, not just a guy that's trying to hang on.
Being an impact player, but accepting that you're the impact player. You know what I mean? Like sometimes there'll be media and say that he's got to be our guy. We need that guy to be that guy. And when they hear that, they're like, man, that's a little more pressure than I want or need or things like that. Now it's just natural to him, and because it's just evolving for him. And I don't even think he thinks of himself in that way. It's just, listen, you can sit there and you can watch the smile on his face when he gets back to the bench or when he's on the ice, and not necessarily after a goal, just in general. He's having a good time playing this game, and who wouldn't? Everything seems to be going right for him. I mean, he takes one off the cheek, leaves for a few minutes, comes back and scores a goal. You know, so that's just the way his season's going, and And hopefully for all the fans and him and his teammates, it continues to go that way.
Yeah, very much so. And you can tell he was all smiles in the media availability this morning at the skate. All right, here's something that we've heard before, but when we get the opposition's take on how they deal with Dallas, transition game gets brought up a lot.
You know, they're one of the more solid teams in the league on both sides of the puck. I guess that's what I would say. So they're stingy defensively, but when you turn it over, they're very quick to go the other way, and that's what makes them one of the better teams in the NHL right now is their transition game. So we have to make sure we're really good in that area of managing the puck the right way and doing a really good job of trying to flip the script a little bit on them and playing fast on our side so we can try to catch them in situations that they don't want to be in.
Every coach I feel like that we've clipped this year has talked about the Stars transition game and how dangerous they are of capitalizing on mistakes.
And as a coach, you have to be careful the way you get that point across, because you don't want to be a team that you're playing not to lose. And sometimes when you talk about a team like Dallas that can transition the puck, in other words, just make a pass, get up and go, because they can all skate and they all play north. But the thing about it is, as they learn about the Dallas team, is yes, they get up and go, but when they get to the offensive blue line, top of the circle, it isn't directly to the net a lot of times. So they'll make that pass here, make an extra pass. So the message being sent to the opponent should be, keep coming all the way back. Do not stop your feet and think you're out of the play when you get to the middle of the ice, when you get to the offensive blue line, their defensive blue line. Keep coming, because they may make an extra pass. They've been known to make an extra pass or two. So come back to the house, and you'll be able to pick some pucks off.
Well, a guy that you're familiar with and we've seen succeed very well in Dallas is a DFW native, Blake Coleman, who plays for the Flames. It's not a new thing now. He's been there for a few years, but he always gets asked about playing in Dallas, and here was his very brief answer about it.
Oh, it's fun. I always have a lot of 20 jerseys in the stands, and get to see family and friends, and it's just always good to come home. So I'm excited to play here, and like I said, ultimately it's a great opportunity.
There was a time when he was a free agent, and he was coming off of the Tampa Bay Lightning experience.
I was over at his house going, "Don't do it. Don't do it.
Why?
Don't do it." Same thing I told you about Seth Jones.
When you're saying don't do it, you mean don't sign with the Stars?
Yeah, and I wasn't saying don't do it. I shouldn't put that. I'm like, Blake, you're going to find out if you do. There's going to be my pet peeve. There's going to be more distractions than you care, and that's the way it is. And Blake is a good kid and family guy, but he's got lots of friends, and so that stuff kind of makes it challenging at times until you get a little older, and then they all have their own lives. But Blake enjoys playing against the Dallas Stars.
Boy, he does.
He's got 7 goals now playing against this team, a couple with Jersey and Tampa, and this team he's playing with now. So, but Blake knows how to play. Blake knows who he is, and he knows the kind of player that he is. He knows how he's effective. He works every shift, and I think he's underrated for his hands and his skills sometimes, what he can do around the front of the net. But he knows exactly why he's getting paid and why teams want a player like him, because he thinks, take care of the puck, take care of my area.
He's very responsible,
kill
isn't he?
penalties, do all the little things that the guys at the top of the food chain don't necessarily want to do.
The thing is at the time when he signed with Calgary, I went, yep, he deserves every penny of it. And it was too much for the cap space the Stars had at the time for the role they wanted him in. And I would still take him on this team because I think he would make them better. But again, probably not at that salary. And that's great. Like, he deserves it. And I hope he has a ton of success. Seems like, I don't know Blake at all. He seems like a great kid. But the interesting thing about hearing him talk was not so much about that, because he didn't get into too much detail in that moment, was they are an inconsistent group on special teams right now. Here's what he had to say about it.
There's been a lot of highs and lows in both departments, and I think we haven't successfully pieced it together where the kill and the power play are running strong at the same time, and we just got to find ways to win both of those battles, because ultimately it's going to win us a lot of games. And we're shaking some things up on the PK, and then PP's been doing their job lately, so we just got to pull our weight on the other side.
The Calgary Flames power play ranks 14th in the NHL at 21.5%. Okay, that's middle of the road. Then you look a little closer, and they have scored power play goals in 8 of their last 9, operating at a 37% success rate, 10 for 27. That's really, really good. So you go, well, wait a minute, how are they 14th? Well, because the first 18 games of the year, they were at 13.5%, which was the 30th of 32 teams. So it was awful. On the other side, Luddy, the penalty kill is just not good. They're 30th in the league. They've given up goals in 6 of 7 at a rate of 61% successful on killing off opposition power plays. That's not very good.
They have holes in the middle of their PK in their own zone. And when they're leaving that slot area open, I saw a couple goals scored against them lately in that area where the coverage isn't what it's supposed to be. And as far as the offensive side of things, the power play, they've got Huberdeau, who's, I think he's kind of starting to settle in a little bit. He came with a big contract and got a contract and
didn't play well at first.
He was awful. But he wanted to play that style, and it's a different style. It's the one that got him the contract with the numbers and all that. Now they got a defenseman, I think, that's starting to learn the way that they want him to play there, because he was playing in that same team, that same system that was kind of just let's get up and run. And then, so I think they're, again, when you only put 2 new guys in, but they're key pieces, they have to kind of get up to speed about the players that they're playing with and, the systems and what you're dealing with. You don't have the same high-end guys on the teams that you played with before, so you may have to change a little bit.
Let's take a quick look at the lineup cards before we say goodbye for a pregame show. Stars forwards, same group as we said before. No changes there. Remember, Maverick Bourque got his 2nd goal of the season in the last game against Vegas. Then you go to the D pairings. Again, same group there. If we had more time, I would have asked Sam. He said he would like to see Brendan Smith get back into the lineup. And the question is, at the expense of whom? Obviously, Ottinger's there. For the Flames, that's where Luddy's talking about. They have some good players. Nazem Kadri has been a big success. He's a minus 13 right now, which is not very good for supposedly your top-line center. Do keep an eye on Kuzmenko. He got scratched. He's back in the lineup. He will get power play time because Ryan Lomberg is not on the trip. His wife is expecting their first child. And then switch to the D. This is their strength. Anderson's good. Uyghur's great. Ball and Miramonov are sort of around that. I like Jake Bean. I think he's in a good spot as the 3rd pairing. And we're going to see young Dustin Wolf, who was the AHL Player of the Year a couple years ago. And he's not the biggest guy. He's more like UC Saros size. Vladar is massive. He's huge. But Sean Shapiro, our co-host, loves Wolf, says he's appointment viewing. So that should be really interesting. But if you'd like some fun, because the guy who's not on that lineup, who played in Dallas for a while and still has a lot of fans, like Jake Oettinger.
Just probably the best teammate I've ever had. Just one of the most well-liked guys ever. When you lose a guy like that, he can't be replaced, and just think like type of guy that you want your sister to marry. So he's just the best, and seeing him, it feels like you saw him yesterday, and every guy in this room would say they miss him a ton.
In case you're wondering, he's talking about Joel Hanley. Got a chance to say hi to him myself at the end of the Flames skate before I skedaddle back home. He's such a nice guy, and he was the perfect 7.
Been nice to have him last year in the playoffs.
When they weren't playing Nils, they missed him for sure. But then Petrovic came in and played really well. But, Hanley is a great team guy. And the fact that he's so well-liked. He came out this morning while the Stars were skating. He's in his, T-shirt and shorts. He's got a little Flames hat on and went to the bench. And guys couldn't line up fast enough to say hi to him. Always like seeing a teammate that's been well-liked and around for a long time.
I think players always appreciate the guys that are in that role. They're not in there every night. And kind of like a Brendan Smith kind of guy. They know what they go through and they see what they have to do after practices and things like that. So they appreciate those kind of players. I just want to say something about Shapiro. Doesn't he always jump on the wagon of the guy that's playing really hot? And then he always says, he's pretty good. He's really good. I like that guy.
He's been on Wolf for a couple years now. I'll give him some credit there.
I think he's a bandwagoner. He's always jumping on the
he is
taking
the
shots
while he's
thing that's
stuck
out
in
there.
a boat. He can't defend himself.
I'm just saying. He's listening.
Hey, John, let's clip that. And so the next time Sean's on, I want to set up a little tete-a-tete with Luds.
Okay.
You hear that? That was just, more.
My mic was muted, so nobody heard that sigh when I was asked to do something.
I heard the sigh.
What is it? 34 minutes in, Luds on Sean. Noted.
All right. Well,
isn't it game time?
Yeah, we're going to
34 minutes into the 30-minute pregame show.
Okay.
We had to talk about Joel
Game
Hanley.
time.
It's time for the game. We'll talk to you afterwards. Thanks for watching.
I believe that they are going to crush these guys tonight.
We all silly like the mayor.